Look, we are diving straight into this explainer today because I really need you to understand what actually happened out there on that desolate rock. I was the keeper of the lantern, right? Left totally alone, just surrounded by churning, pitch-black water. And I'm telling you right now, everything we think we know about the light is completely wrong. Welcome to the Lighthouse for the Dead. I'm coming to you literally breathless today, and I swear I can still hear the crashing waves in my ears because I just have to confess what I saw. Because man, it was not supposed to be this way.
I mean, look at this quote right here. I thought I served the living. That was my absolute truth, my core identity. I was tasked by men, stationed on this brutally unforgiving rock to turn the light. I was the guy who was supposed to keep that great lantern burning so bright that ships would be saved from the jagged teeth of the shore. And you know, I stood up there with so much pride, every single night striking the match, polishing the glass, just knowing that because of me, sailors would navigate those treacherous shoals and make it home to their families. That was my proud purpose, or so I thought.
Section 1. Guardian of the Living. A protector against the dark. Let's get into it.
So I really thought I was this solitary shield against the violent sea, right? A warm, living thing standing against the dark, hungry waters. A genuine beacon of salvation meant to guide ships home. But then everything inverted. The exact instrument I used to save lives actually became a lighthouse for the dead. It started summoning the drowned. My noble duty? Yeah, it wasn't what I thought at all. I wasn't just shining a warning into the dark, I was actually acting as a magnet for something way, way more sinister.
Moving on to Section 2. Mist and the Silent Song. The Woman in the Gray Foam.
Okay, picture this. One night, the mist grows unnaturally thick, like incredibly heavy, clinging to the glass of the gallery like wet wool. The air turns absolutely freezing, and the sound of the crashing waves is just completely muffled by this overwhelming, suffocating fog. And then, out on the exterior grating where literally no living human could possibly be, she appeared, just draped entirely in the gray foam of the sea, her form shifting around. She didn't scream. Actually, scratch that. She didn't mourn for a single kin or loved one either. Instead, she sang, and it was a song carrying the heavy weight of 1,000 lost souls. It didn't just vibrate in the air, I'm telling you, it rattled my bones. It was the collective groan of every sailor dragged down into the freezing dark, compressed into one chilling melodic wail, a banshee of the sea, literally standing on my gallery singing right into my light.
So you gotta ask yourself, how did my light become a trap? That's the despairing question that absolutely broke my mind that night. I looked at my brilliant, blinding lantern, and yeah, it was piercing the heavy fog exactly like it was designed to do. But then I realized, with absolute terror, that the beam wasn't just reaching out to ships on the horizon, it was reaching down. It was penetrating the black depths, actively pulling the drowned from their silent graves. I was literally lighting the way for them.
Which brings us to Section 3, the 1898 Rathlin Siege, a week of terror. Let's look at the historical record.
See, I realized then that I wasn't going mad, because this horror is actually incredibly methodical. This exact thing happened on Rathlin Island back in 1898. It's a documented, devastating siege. Look at this timeline. Day 1, you get this unnatural heavy mist totally isolating the tower from the rest of the world. By day 3, the banshee arrives in the gray foam to sing her soul-crushing song. And finally, the terrifying culmination on day 7. The light becomes an inescapable, relentless magnet, and the stairs just swarm with the dead. Over 7 days, my beacon became a continuous draw for the spirits down below.
It's a step-by-step process. First, they are pulled from their silent graves at the bottom of the ocean. Then, compelled by the light, they're drawn right to the base of the tower. We're talking hundreds of them, dripping and bloated, swaying in the surf. And then, the worst part. They climb the stone stairs. I watched them in pure terror, and you have to understand, they weren't ghosts of sorrow weeping for their lost lives. No way. They were an army. An actual army summoned from the water, ascending my tower, step by heavy step.
Section 4. A conscious, hungry abyss, summoned by memory.
So, as I barricaded the iron door at the top of the stairs, literally listening to their wet footsteps ascending, I had this terrifying epiphany. The sea is not merely a place of passage. It's a conscious force that collects what it has claimed. I say this with a regret so heavy it practically suffocates me. You know, we typically think of the ocean as just a road, right? Like a highway for our ships, or just empty space between lands. It is absolutely not. It has a memory. It's a living, conscious entity that actively gathers its souls, and it uses us, our lighthouses, to count its collection.
The hierarchy of the deep is absolute, and it breaks down like this. It gathers the drowned. It remembers every single soul that slips beneath the waves. And, maybe most importantly, it commands the banshee. While I thought I was serving the living by keeping the light burning, she was serving the abyss. She was essentially the ocean's herald, using my light as her stage to call the sea's property to the surface.
Section 5. Anchor for the Lost. The Final Truth.
As those wet footsteps reached my landing outside the lantern room, my spirit just completely broke. And honestly, it wasn't even from the fear of dying, but from the crushing weight of my unintended summoning. It all boils down to this. Every beacon of salvation eventually becomes an anchor for the lost. That's the dreadful, dual nature of the lighthouse at the edges of the world. You just cannot cast a light that strong without casting a shadow. You can't call out to the living without waking the dead. My beacon of salvation was the very anchor keeping these lost souls tied to the agonizing memory of the sea.
The sea remembers. I want you to just let that sit for a second. Let the visceral horror of that fact really hang in the air. The sea does not forget a single soul it swallows, and it will use our own lights to prove it to us.
So, I have to ask, do you still believe the light only guides the sailor? Because I sure don't. I abandoned my post, I let the light die, I fled. And I need you to know, I didn't flee because I feared the ghosts on the stairs. I fled because I finally saw the undeniable truth. The light that guides the sailor also calls the wanderer home to the depths. I really hope this explainer has opened your eyes to what truly happens on the edge of the dark water. Think about that the next time you see a light piercing the fog. Thanks for joining me.